At Trees Engineering, we're not just a marketplace for the energy industry. We're growing a community that empowers one another. In this podcast series, we come together with industry experts, trailblazers, and visionaries to share insights, experiences, and wisdom that spark inspiration. Join us as we discover the challenges, innovations, and breakthroughs that shape our world. Whether you're an engineering enthusiast, a curious mind, or someone eager to learn about the forces that drive progress, this podcast is for you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to an episode of People in STEM, where we unravel the fascinating stories of awesome people shaping the future. I'm Siti, and today I have Adriana joining me as co-host. She is usually in the backstage, but today she is at the front for you guys. So please do sit back, relax, and join us as we navigate STEM and stand-up comedy in this Laugh, Learn, and Live episode with Aaron Au. So joining us is Aaron, who is a brilliant aerospace lecturer in Help University, who on the side is also a comedian slash entrepreneur. You might have seen him in Lawak Solo back in 2016, or you might have came across him on his current show, which is Project Q on RTM, which is Radio Television Malaysia. So welcome to Trees Engineering, Aaron. It's nice to have you here. We're very happy to have you with us today, and we're very excited to have our audience listen in to your story.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, Siti and Adriana. It's been a pleasure, not a pressure.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, exactly. To begin, so how exactly would you say, what exactly do you do and how would you describe yourself?
I will describe myself as a very chincai person. Chincai is not a good term. Very unorganized. That's not very good either. I'm more of how you say it, like go with the flow. But I'm working on trying to be organized. But most of the times, I feel like the more I plan, the more I fail.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like most of the things happen when I actually didn't expect it to be. And look where I am right now at Help University. My students are not here. That's why they are students, because last time was still the same, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if I see your face, I definitely think you're a comedian, but I don't think you're doing aerospace. I mean, how did you get into aerospace and comedy?
Not how I going to aerospace, not in a rocket lah. I remember that time after my masters, I was still figuring out what to do, and then I saw an advertisement whereby my previous supervisor, but I still call him the boss, right? Because he's really like the boss. If you meet him, you feel like the gravity is 99999.81, right? So it's really intense. But he put up an advert saying that he would like to recruit a research assistant who will be enrolling for a PhD program. So I feel like, we have aerospace in Malaysia. I'm like, all I could think of is like, raining my astronaut working. We all have aerospace. We don't even have rocket. So that's how then I enrolled it. And then he took me under his wing. And it's 6 years after that, 6 7 years actually, almost 7 years. Then after that, I graduated. It was really not what I expected, because I was thinking about the Big Bang Theory kind of thing, the black hole, the planets, but that's all is astrophysics. Aerospace is totally different. It's
Right.
way technical, yeah, way a lot of mathematics. I sleep a lot, so that shows how interesting it is.
Okay. And aerospace itself, it is actually a very broad term. So under aerospace, you do have like commercial aviation, you have military aviation, you have satellites, and last but not least, something that aerospace is famous for or known most about would be space exploration. But assuming I'm a 5 years old, right? Like someone with zero knowledge of aerospace and all that, how would you define aerospace, like in simple words?
It's like, okay, I assume you are 5 years old. Okay, that's very
Yeah.
weird. And trying to talk to a 5 years old could get me into trouble. No, I mean in a good way. So I'm like, hey, you like to now I don't think they play games. Do they still play guli, I'm not sure. So, when you're angry, when you throw stuff, right? If you're angry or if you're happy, you also throw stuff, something's wrong with you then. So when you throw that thing, you realize like how far it could actually go. So that's actually aerospace already, but
I
it's
see.
not like we always like to think about aerospace like you got to be outside of the planet, right? No, not always the case, right? Because whether you are out of Earth or in planet Earth, the theory still applies, whereby if there is a certain amount of energy and if you throw it in a correct trajectory, it will bound to land somewhere or hit someone, and they and it won't be a good thing. So uh, to be honest, if you are 5 years old, right? So if you go into
Yeah.
aerospace, you will still be 5 years old. You'll never grow up.
Right. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, I have a lot of questions too, apart from Siti. I mean, you're as a lecturer and a comedian. Are you not busy with your current project? I mean, tell me about your current project.
Oh, I'm really, really super duper busy. I think a third arm or fourth arm is growing beside my limbs already. Because at private institute, what I'm currently doing is that I'm handling a lot of subjects. I feel like I'm like more of a teacher than a researcher. But however, when there's free time during the weekend, of course, I will do my research stuff. So at the moment, I'm handling IT. I'm in the IT department. So from space, I finally landed back on planet Earth. So I'm handling data science for master's program, and also I'm teaching cybersecurity and Python programming for diploma and undergraduate level. So uh, it's kind of fun when you feel like you're not actually trying to uh, teach as a lecturer, but you teach as a student, because students, you don't want to actually bombard them with programs and stuff that will put them to sleep right after lunch, and somehow it's not easy, not the first thing that you want to see, right? So how I usually start my day, I probably give them a funny video, and then I will talk things that will digress from the topic, and then have a two-way conversation, very important two-way feedback, so that it's a bit interactive rather than me talking all the time. So it actually helps with how I manage the time, because if I keep talking a lot, if you talk a lot, very tiring one. You keep talking, and then if the other person just listen, both parties are very tired. Both parties also want to sleep, but when there's a two-way communication, like I'm talking with you guys and you guys are talking with me, and when you're
Right.
laughing, I know you're not sleeping. So the time will pass very, very fast, right? And you won't feel like a job. You will feel like, hey, we are at a mama shop, but in a classroom. But at the
Right.
same time, you probably learn something and getting entertained. So that's how I manage my workload and my stress. Yeah.
So it's very fulfilling.
Yeah, it is rewarding, very rewarding.
Right. And dual roles, like being in two roles or more, in fact, they're not really uncommon. So side jobs, whether it's for fun, whether it's for finances, people do those things. But comedy and aerospace are pretty much like opposite ends. They're like the exact opposites. So you must have been met with some doubts or reservations at some point, whether it's from yourself or your family and friends. So having that, what or who inspires and motivate you to still pursue both roles?
Okay, the comedy part has always been inside of me, although I've not recognized it for a long time, because my friend is the one that actually saw that I have some potential to do stand-up. So he actually submitted my name to Dr. Jason
Right.
Suleong, Comedy Kau back then in Publica, and then I was offered a spot without knowing what I should do. So I thought I'd make a complete fool of myself. In the end, I made a complete fool out of everyone and myself, and I see like they're actually having a good time, and I feel like probably I have what it takes. So then I pursue in the direction. Before that, I was also in sales. It worked out a while, and then after I feel like it's not that fulfilling and not that honest, because you got to do a lot of stuff that business people do. But no, nothing against business people. That's what you do, and it's all right as long as you enjoy what you're doing.
Right.
How I see is that the reason why I become a lecturer is at first it wasn't like what I want to pursue, but then I find like besides just keeping people laugh, right? Like, can I probably educate them in some way,
Mm.
and in some way probably pay so that I can pay my bill as well. So it's time for me to get a full-time job, but I want to see where can I actually apply what I'm good at into something different, or
Mm.
because instead of selling something or selling knowledge, why not I transfer knowledge in a much more entertaining way? Because a lot of good subjects, like programming, like maths, like data science or
Right.
physics, all these are very interesting stuff. But if it can only be delivered properly in a not so, how you say, schema, how is it, textbook kind of version, that would be more fun, right? So I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to see, but of course, me alone, I can't change everyone. I can't do it on myself.
Mm.
So I see, like, I take it as a challenge, right? So people like to say, like, they always tell me, Aaron, if you should do what you like. But although I agree with that, how's it, that way of saying, but doing what you like is good, but at the same time, not many people can do what they like, right? Like, some people love to sing, some people like to dance, but do they actually pursue that direction? Not all the time, right? It doesn't work that way. But what you are good at, right? Can you at least do something? So if you can at least do something, just do it lah. Just Nike it and then see where it will take you. And the reason why I find this fulfilling is because I get affirmed from my fellow students. They say, like, hey sir, always very direct. They said, hey sir, I think I didn't learn anything from subject, but I learned something from what you said lah. So in a way, although they don't like the subject, they like me. I said, yeah. That kind of affirmation is what get me going. I think that is actually what get a lot of people fired up, to pursue what they do, and they realize, like, hey, it's actually my second passion, because at first I didn't know what I like to do, but then I think at least I can do something. I don't know, drawing, sketching, jumping, making your mother angry. I don't know. So you do something, and then suddenly people, like, have a look, or you post it up somewhere on social media, and you get likes, and then people comment, they share. You feel affirmed, and that's where I feel like something which is not actually cultivated in you, suddenly it turns out to be a second passion, and eventually become your main passion. So that
Right.
is how I actually see that teaching at first is not something like I want to do, but then I think not bad lah. At least I can teach something, although they didn't learn much from the particular subject, but they they still remember certain things about certain theory or certain computation, and they remember the jokes more. But I think they want to laugh more lah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, hearing the challenges that you've been through, all the experience, I mean, do you see any like intersection between being a comedian and an educator for now?
Oh yes, because a lot of comics out there, they are not just a comic, right? Some of them some of them are lawyers, some of them are real estate agents. I mean, they are really comedian by themselves. Some of them are medical practitioners, physician, teachers, all sorts. So comedy can actually be applied anywhere, as long there is an audience. All right. Otherwise, from another perspective, it's like you're talking to yourself, and I think you need therapy. It's a form of therapy also. It's very therapeutic. There is definitely a fine line, because what do you say? Stand-up comedy is actually a performing arts. And then for, let's say, if you're doing something technical, like you're a programmer, that's like more towards science, right? And there's always a science cannot exist without art, and art cannot exist without science. Both of them need to intersect, right? But like, you're up there doing some jokes, or you dance, or you sing, that's performing arts. And then when people actually enjoy, absorb your voice, and they understand the joke, or they get what you're trying to sing, they feel affirmed, they feel emotion, we feel so many kinds of feelings. That is where science and arts, they amalgamated together. So there's definitely an intersection between these two different pathways, which I see.
I see. I mean, it's interesting to know, because aerospace is for me is quite difficult already. I mean, what made you choose the
Sound
hardest
difficult lah.
subject. Yeah, I mean, I took architecture, science. That's hard enough for me.
Architecture, I thought just draw, draw lah, whatever. Let the engineers figure out how to make it or something. I don't know. Okay, so but we have if you know Nizam Janti, he was an architect, and then now comedy is and his entertainment line is full thing. So aerospace, the reason is at first before I took it, I felt like the reason, to be honest, I took it because it sounds cool, right? Like that's all. Aerospace, walao eh. What you do, what tak tahu leh. I mean, it sounds cool, compared to mechanical engineer. Because mechanical engineer, people like, hey, you repair my car lah. Electrical engineer, hey, you fix my aircon can lah. Think I want aircon man. So, to be frank, I really thought it sounds cool and it has that wow thing. It's like you hear aerospace, but the moment you delve into it, for the first few months, you will realize, what did I just got myself into, right? What the heck is not what I expect. Yes, but in the end, it takes lots of time, lots of patience. Because one thing about me, I'm determined. Like I won't just give up that easily. So let's see where it will go. All right. At first, I feel like I can't do it, but although it's like not in 2 years, 3 years, I got lost for 2 years, to be frank. But then I attended night classes because my supervisor told me, like, you're not actually the brightest PhD candidate I have ever mentored. I have no idea how you even exist here. Not how I got here, how I exist here. I'm like, wow, that is how he rated me. So he asked me to attend his night class. It was space mechanics, means like the mathematics for aerospace, right? Night class, 8 to 10. In UPM, I still remember that. Then he will point out like, that fella behind that's my PhD student. So I didn't see it as I see it as I take it as a challenge. I don't see it like it's something, a stumbling block, but that I need to just overcome. And if I always tell people, if an idiot like me can do it, you can too, man. Like, you just gotta give yourself a chance.
That's very motivational. Okay. But on top of being in aerospace, which is already difficult, teaching in itself is also a difficult task to pursue these days, considering the type of students that you probably have in your classrooms. So, does adding comedy in the classroom actually make it better? So, in terms of attention span, so is learning better with comedy is the question.
Oh, definitely, of course, because look, a lot of classes. Okay, there are two types of classes. One is the early morning classes that not only students don't want to attend, but also it's hard for the lecturer to wake up in the morning because we are also humans, right?
Right.
But so, and then there's the right at the end class, which is about like 3 or 4 p.m. up late in the afternoon. And the subjects that we are going to handle, especially technical subjects like programming, mathematics, sciencey subjects, like science subjects are always seen as like, ooh, very technical, but if you get to it, you're very smart. How are you smart when you take all this stuff that you don't even know?
Right.
Why not join arts? It's so fun. So you got to actually understand how to actually capture their attention, because this is just like comedy, but the difference is in comedy, when I know they laugh, I know it's an instant feedback. For here, if they sleep, I know I'm dead, because they're not paying attention to me. But if they laugh, also something wrong, like I haven't started, you laugh already, why laugh? What happened, bro? You too stressed, too much assignment or what? So for smaller class of students, it's much more easier to handle. But if for big class, and for big classes, you really need to know how to make everyone happy. I mean, you don't need to make everyone happy. That's what God tell me. But I say, hello, you didn't do comedy. You will not understand. If everyone don't laugh, I'm dead. So how do I do that? How do I engage them? All right. So it's not that simple, because nobody wants to come to, nobody wakes up early in the morning and go, hey man, I want to learn programming. No way. What the hell? No such thing. Like people wake up in the morning, like the first thing they want to do is I want to go back to sleep. That's all. Or I want to go and go to the toilet, then come back and sleep again. No one in their right mind like, I want to learn math, I want to learn programming. No such thing. So it's actually very difficult. And if you do not know how to handle, okay, if you can't tell jokes, don't. All right, don't try to be a comedian if you're not a natural storyteller or an improv kind of person. Just be yourself, and students don't need to laugh to get their attention, right? All you need to do is make sure you relate to them. right? If things that could relate, instead of teaching them 2 plus 2 is equals to 4, you said for what? And then people always say like 2 minus 1 is 1. I said, hey, you sure or not? Because 2 minus 1 can be 2 also. Why not, right? So it's like, let's say a pregnant mom gave birth to someone, right? There's 2 lives, something like that. I don't know. So this is how you got to how to relate it to real life situation. Then people were like, hey, I begin to see why I learned this kind of things. They begin to see how important this subject actually
Right.
is, instead of just trying to get good grades. So that's what I'm trying to emphasize a lot. And it is a not a tough job, it's a challenging job. But if you just teach it as a job, then it becomes challenging even for yourself. Because why? You are just concerned about fulfilling your day to just talk stuff about from the textbook, and in the end they learn nothing. You have no idea why you are doing it, and then it becomes stressful for you for more classes to come. So in the end, it doesn't do both party good. So teaching is not for everyone. Definitely, it's not that simple. But anyone can just read from the textbook. That one everyone can do. But to make sure whether they can understand what's inside, that's to take back what they learn and what to apply in their daily life. That is a whole ball game of that.
I see. I mean, if my lecture was this friendly, I would definitely come to class every
Every
morning. I
day,
don't care.
exactly, yeah.
Every day. I mean,
Which is
how's your student react? You're a comedian.
Oh,
So how's your student?
they react by besides laughing, all their hands will bring the phone and point at me right in front
No
of my
way.
face. Some even on the flash. I'm like, dude.
I see.
I mean, I allow them to record. They tag me on their Instagram stories, and it's fun. I have like up till today, I have like 200 students on my Instagram. I remember all their names. That's the first thing, to first of all, in order to get their attention, you got to know your audience well. So for my case, I get to know my students well. Even after class, I go up to them, just talk to them. Like there's no separation. Although some people say you need to put a fine line between, I only put a fine line between me and my boss. But wait, my boss is the dean, but who pays the dean the salary? Oh, the students. Who pays this? It's not the students, the students' parents, right? So in the end, it boils down back to who your real audience is. So actually, the first entry point is to get to know their name. Remember their names. Names are very, very important. And when you know their name, they feel that they are much more, it's more than just a student lecture. It's more like you actually want them to actually learn something for the good of their, for the betterment of themselves, right? Instead of just make sure they get good grades. So the respect that, in order to gain that respect, you got to first be because the respect goes both ways. It's not something you can just attain just because I'm a lecturer, they're a student. No such way. It goes both ways. It's give and take. So I see. Yeah. And for attendance wise, sometimes it's full. Sometimes there's more than full. Meaning suddenly got new student.
Oh,
New
wow.
student come in from different department, and I think they just want to come and listen to jokes. I'm not sure, but some of them really. I handle IoT classes, right?
Right.
Internet of Things. So this is a very, very, how is it? The subject doesn't have any precursor, but as long as people would like to know how things work, how to operate or control your the device from your mobile phone, this is real life application, your automatic door, your dispenser, your laptop, whatever. So this is something that not only IT students can join, psychology students join too. In fact, a lot of business students also join because they want to learn, and it's not something they need to learn to go and sit for the test, but because they can relate, because they're like, hey man, I also have that, like in the morning, my aircon suddenly off, so I said, oh, you actually reached lah. Okay, good. So
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
think people actually skip classes just to go to your classes?
There are. I
Yeah.
said like, come on, don't be naughty, all right? Later I tell Mr. Cock or something. So yeah, some of them like, and I said, why lah, you don't go? And the first thing they tell me, the lecturer boring lah. So
I see.
something like that. So they skip class, and because if they don't want to go to the class, instead of going out to lepa and smoke and I don't know, do whatever, so might as well come to my class lah. Because I always
Yeah,
tell people
that's
my
true.
class is for
That's
everyone,
true.
for everyone. Yeah, even for adults. Sometimes lecturers even join my class. There are some
Oh, wow.
lecturers who are free. They will just sit in there because it's not something that you can how is it how you say, when you're free, you don't know what to do, learn something, sometimes I join psychology class as well. It's very interesting to know how the human brain works, how human behavior works. And it's like just learning a computer and humans, they're the same. It's just that we are programmed in a different way. That's how I see it.
Aaron, speaking about your students just now, do you have any specific favorite memory in teaching that you can share?
That's a lot, right? So where do I even begin? The best lesson is usually taught outside of the classroom. That's what I always tell them. So one of the good memories I have was this student was having, I think, a family issue or something that he couldn't resolve. And the reason why he enrolled for this course is because the parents forced him into joining it. So he didn't actually find any inspiration, or it's not for him. Certain courses are just not for you, but because of the parents, desire for him to pursue this, and he joined it. So what happened is that I tried to talk to him too about probably you could try to see whether you could. Of course, you cannot change your parents' mind, and please don't even change their mind, because first of all, sometimes they don't even have a mind. I'm not asking you to go and to be bad to your parents, folks, right? I'm kidding. I'm just trying to say try to look in the perspective where can they actually see what happened if they are the ones that are being forced to do something lah. But then somehow I told him, if you still, but he told me he could not actually he don't want to he just want to go through the course and don't want to fail. So I told him you see, you are already successful, you don't need to score a high definition or straight A's. If that's what your aim is, to make your parents happy, but at the same time so that you don't want to get kicked out of your house, so at least just go through the program. And somehow after that, now it's already been a year, he's one of the top students at the university, right? And suddenly his passion developed, and it's very nice to see that from something you don't like, it becomes something you like, because first you're being pressured into, which is not advisable, but at the same time you won't know how good you actually are at doing something if you don't give it a try. So that is something life-changing, not just for him but for me. But from what I know, right now he's an air steward for SIA or something. So I'm got free discount next time I fly with SIA. By the way, SIA didn't pay me to say this, right? So I'm not endorsed in any moment. This is one of the good memory, one of the funniest memory lah. Actually, there are few more memories, right? After party, sometimes I bring students to party. Yeah, I mean don't get me wrong. I just we had a Vitagen party, so that was very healthy. Everybody hold one Vitagen, different color, and then it's of course school party lah, right? Birthday party and so on. So what happened? They asked me to do a show for them, and then the best part, they invite their parents to come. I'm like, wait, what kind of party is this? Is it a graduation party that I don't know of? Then so it become not just a student party, but a PIBG, PIBG school party. I'm like, what the heck? How old are you guys? I'm like, right. So all the parents will say, this is your lecturer. Oh.
I mean, that's a good memory to keep.
Yeah, and the parents look at me like, you sure this is not your friend? I'm like, well, lecturer can't be friend with it. So yeah, these are one of the few fun memories. And another one, the one that I remember the most is I was invited by the student society to perform on stage with the student band, right? So because they know I can play the guitar not very well, so but I can play quite okay, at least skills looks like someone who play guitar rather than banging it on the wall. So it was a very huge event, because Tha College was invited over as well, and a few other colleges, and then the band consists of me and two other students. One a bassist, another a drummer, a female drummer. So three of us. I was the only lecturer, right? So we were rocking on stage with all the classic Chinese Beyond songs, all right, and then with other rock and roll. At the end, Tak always promoted up and say like, "Wow, the lecturer got talent, lah." So I'm trying to say I'm not trying to say anything about Tak College, but they're trying to say like the one got not so whatever. Like it's okay. That's quite fun. So I feel like a rock star already, not a lecturer. Like I'm like, hey, yeah, that's also another cool memory.
I see. I mean, that's really nice. I mean, few memories should be kept, beautiful memories lah. I mean,
True.
there's a lot of teachers out there. I mean, do you feel that being in comedy make you a better teacher for your students?
I feel it helps with the teaching because it's not just like how you said they call very schema, no, very how you say very plain, very dull direct teaching. But I'm not trying to say like again, you do not need to be funny all the time to get their attention. You just need to make sure what you teach is realistic, something they could imagine. If they can't imagine, show it out. You just have to put extra effort in teaching. Teaching is not just from your mouth, it's from your entire body, right? You don't just speak with your mouth, you speak with your eyes, with your ears, with your hand, with your legs, with your body. You have a body, shake it, don't just stand there, right? Like a dungu, just dance. I don't know if you need to. You won't be seen as a crazy person, trust me. In fact, the students will feel at first that you are crazy, but they will not call the parents or the police. They will be like, hey, not bad. So they will loosen up. They'll feel like you are actually like them. And we are like them too, because we are once a student and we are always a student. I always tell them
Right.
we change all the time, all right? Because we are just humans, you and I. There's sometimes you are cranky, sometimes you're moody, sometimes you're happy. If I can put it in a programmatic way, we are actually a variable, not just a variable, but a variable that who is constantly changing. All right. So it's good that if you don't know what you want to do. It's good if you don't know your partner or your parents that well. It's good if your parents don't know you well either, because look, if they know you well, what's the fun in trying to get to know you more, right? So it's all right if you don't know, right? If you don't know something or someone well enough, you discover. And the reason why you keep discovering is because they keep changing. And if we change for the better for you and I, right? So this is something I see. If you make sure you want to teach, you teach it from your heart. Don't just teach it and make it hard, all right? Otherwise, life is a bit difficult, right? So first of all, you need to know why you are in the academic line in the first place. All right, don't just, or it could be anything, it can be business, it could be in, I don't know, it can be music, dance, or whatever, but make sure you do the job with all you have, all right? Do it as if like today's the last day, right? So treat it like the last day. You'll do better, right? Don't put yourself under pressure. Otherwise, it won't be fun for you and for everyone. And the moment you don't feel fun, it will affect everyone, right? It's like
Right.
people can sense like, hey, are you alright? People will tell me if I'm alright if I don't wear colorful clothes, right? They'll tell me, are you sick? I'm like, no, I'm not sick. Okay, I'm like, it's raining, so this is all I got.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So passion itself is not really just reserved for the lecturers, but also something that students should cultivate on their own. At least that's what I'm getting from you. And I actually do
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I do agree. But you yourself, you have close to 10 years of experience in teaching, right? Like almost 10 years, give or take a few.
Not like exact like 10 years lah. It's I have other teaching, but those are how you say like part-time. So
Right.
full-time teaching, I have like two years experience. Yeah, like
Oh,
really
okay.
like
Alright.
a 9 to 5 thing. Yeah.
And being in front of an audience, like in that classroom, do you have any horror stories or concerns of what could go wrong in front of that classroom or in front of an audience? Like what would be something that you worry about, like at the back of your head?
Okay, at the back of my head, there's there's a wall. So what's the main concern right now? Because everyone's recording. Not only that,
Yeah.
because sometimes I do hybrid teaching where I record the class session and students join online because they are working. If you say something wrong or if the joke goes in a bad
Right.
taste,
Right.
they could just print screen or send the recording to HR, and then I could be in
That's
trouble for
right.
saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I think it kind of happened in once a while, but not all the time because you can't. Okay, another thing is I can't please everyone, especially like even like comedy. You can't make everyone laugh in the same way. Some people laugh ha ha, some ho ho, some ha hu. I don't know. That one have to go that. That one some weird. So when there's one person in the audience that don't like you, you just need one person that don't like you, and it can actually jeopardize what I've already worked very hard for, So I'm actually very careful with certain words that I cannot use because in the end, the classroom is still a classroom. I can't treat it like a comedy club, right? So although I treat it like a comedy club most of the time, in the end, it's still a place where students go to learn something. They pay good money, not they pay like the parents pay, and hopefully it's being put to good use. And I always somehow because I have wisdom, we all have wisdom. We just have to use it. You definitely know certain things you can't say, right? So we have to be very careful with what to say to the students. Otherwise, they could a simple recording can be uploaded on TikTok or Instagram. Sometimes you don't even need to say those things, but if they don't like you, that can also be another thing. But at least there's something to justify. So that's my biggest fear of saying something that can be misinterpreted into
Exactly.
something else. Yeah.
So having things taken out of context. So I guess that's a concern of yours in the classroom and also in comedy.
Comedy, no problem, but now, yeah, because people, like it or not, is people are getting much more sensitive and people overthink a lot. So even though it's a comedy, it's like a safe space, but from the recent events that unwind, right? So the part, because we always tell people don't record, and because as humans, when we say don't, they do it. So I always tell my students, don't study. They will study. Like this reverse psychology kind of thing, right? So as long as someone record you or me or whatever we do, sometimes we do things we don't. It's for us. It's our own privacy. We say or do things, but people record what we say. It is being uploaded on the social media, and from something that's private, it's not public. And because that is for us, but someone truly record and not without our consent, that would put us into trouble. So actually, nothing is safe unless you take the phone, take out the battery. Even today, battery cannot take out. So just leave it outside the door or somewhere, right? So that's the only place where everyone could feel safe to voice out their main concern. That's all I say.
Right.
You see your students every day. I mean, not your students, your colleagues, your friends and everything. They know that you're a comedian. I really need to know, do people tend to take you as a joke sometimes?
Even I take myself as a joke. A lot of people, okay, they don't take me like as a joke, like as if like they define they can open up to me. That's how I see it. They don't actually take advantage, although as the students sometimes might take advantage of me helping them to do their assignment. And then I'll see like, hey, bro, I know what you're doing, right? But hey, I'm giving you this assignment, you should do it yourself. But they might help you a little bit. Okay. So I give some leeway in a way. But somehow I feel the more generous you are, the more you open up to someone. There's a tendency where people will take you for granted or try to step on you because they feel like you're not strict. You don't have a line to cross. So they feel like they can cross everywhere. It's like going to someone's home, and the moment someone says, please treat this like your home, you really treat it like your father's home, seriously, just like sleep on the couch or whatever. So I mean, it's good also to have a line. People always tell me like, you need to put a barrier, but I feel because I know how to handle it, so it's okay. But if you don't know how to handle people, then probably you need to set a line so people will not cross it lah. Yeah, so it varies from individual to individual.
Right. It sounds like my boss, to be honest. Like, right, Ariana?
Yeah.
You're too nice.
Okay, don't worry, I won't tell him.
Okay. Well, one notable challenge these days for STEM would be the declining interest. It's not really a problem just in Malaysia, but also something that other
Mm.
nations are concerned about, even first class countries. So,
Mhm.
as a lecturer or as someone in academia, do you have like any reasons to explain the decline?
It's because when they hear about science or mathematics or biology, the first thing they're going to think in their head is, why do I need to memorize all these formulas, all these, look at all these sketches, bodies, diagrams, and memorize it for no reason? Well, I can just do a 5-second video dancing and twerking my don't know
Wow.
what, and people would, yeah. So this is where I become careful because you're my students, later your boss complain
Right,
very
right.
hard. So I have to, so shaking the leg or whatever. Then why I want to work so hard? No, I look at Cristiano Ronaldo, kick one ball and he earning millions. And at the end of the day, he didn't even learn maths. Even Neymar doesn't have an education, but look, he's a football star, from Brazil. And then there's Taylor Swift. I don't get the idea of all these Swifties. I mean, no harm to Taylor Swift, please don't ban me. But they look up to
Right.
the media, like what the media shows, like, oh, they want to be those people. They want to get attention. People want attention, but they think that is the only way to gain attention. And not many of the younger generations look towards other content creators. And by what I mean content creators, I mean mature content creators. There are many out there, like Neil deGrasse Tyson. There's Michio Kaku, who's talking about string theory. There are many, but they are not very popular amongst the age category of 30 and above. They are much more the 30 and below, or late 20s or teens. They prefer simple stuff that could attract them. So if we want to gain their interest, we need to do something like what Neil deGrasse Tyson or other physicists, whereby they not just incorporate humor, but they also bring props to their teaching, like showing, like, this is what will happen if you do this. There's something to see,
Right.
there's something that's attractive. Like you have to go to kindergarten level, like kids, right? So that's the only way. In a short amount of time, how much could you deliver a particular theory or a lesson to someone who have no background of what mathematics or programming is, or what a computer is? You don't need to teach about programming like direct. You need to just break down simple stuff like, hey, did you know if you press the computer will not off or will explode? I don't know, something like that. So you need to do this reverse psychology, like don't learn programming. I'm sure people will learn programming. They'll click it and view it, right? And then you're going to make it interesting. Don't make it as a clickbait. That is also very, how you said, very deceiving. We need to, we need to be more creative, because I find like people in the science stream, these subjects are very technical. And from what I know, if you have a good understanding on what technical and theoretical and articulate and so on, you should be creative, right? But I don't see the creativity when it comes to applying those in teaching. But in fact, other types of medium like arts and so on, they are already very attractive and marketable by its own. So you need to actually work with those people. All right, don't just work with the science people. The science people need to find the arts. The arts people need science, because they need the AI stuff to boost up their algorithm. I don't know lah. So you need to work with different people from different backgrounds to see how to make it more marketable. How do you want to sell the idea that STEM is actually attractive, and it's not just for nerds or geeks who want to go
Right.
into the industry and work in factories and so on. That's what the implant is. I go and pay something so much to learn something I don't like, and to be forced to work with a very low pay. That is the moment when people think about STEM, that's what they think of. But they don't know that you learn IT. You don't have to be a computer person or a geek person. You can be a designer that uses AI to improve your art or gallery, right? You can actually design your own website to make it more interesting, so that people will give you more money. No, not in that way. I mean, people will buy your stuff, and then
Right.
because it's attractive, they will share it. And then you can be a cybersecurity law. If you want to be a lawyer, there's a lot of laws that we need to put on up there. So a lot of things, but people don't see it that way. They don't see the opportunity. And this is actually an opportunity for us or in the STEM industry to actually put this creativity to good use out there on the social media platform, so that people know that STEM is not just calculating 1 + 1 is 2, but why is it 2, and then how this 2 can be applied, in the industry or in your daily life. If I always say, if I have one bottle on my left hand and I have two bottles on my right hand, how many bottles do I have? I have a drinking problem. All right. No, I mean, I might drink too much Vitagen, not good for me later, diabetes, water, or whatever. So yeah, something like that, instead of just a simple 1 + 1. Okay, so there's a lot of ways to do it, but not many are doing it at the moment. Yeah, so
I agree.
it's got to start, and it's got to start at a very low level, like in the kindergarten or primary school level, right? And don't enforce it. The more you force people to go to the science industry or STEM, they won't do it. Let it be free will. Right? Let it be like, have a taste of what STEM is, have a taste about what art is, have a taste about maths, have a taste about economy, have a taste about something. It's like you go to a buffet, right? Before you like something, you got to taste everything. But if like your parents just force you to eat vegetable because it's healthy, then you won't want to do it, right? So it shouldn't be enforced, I feel. It should be available to everyone to experience in order to get, to increase the interest of STEM, I feel.
Right. And as you said, there is an opportunity for STEM. So a lot of investments are actually coming in, not to just engineering, aerospace, and whatnot, but also in science, math. There's a lot of positive efforts being put in ever since COVID. So that is a plus. But also, on the other hand, you do have a lot of distractions coming in. So TikToks are there at its peak. But as someone who is at the forefront, so you are literally seeing all of it happening in front of you, so you could share how does it look like for the future for STEM in Malaysia, or aerospace to be more specific? Do you feel like student intakes would shoot up in the near future? Do you think there is something positive to look forward to?
From my perspective, whether you like it or not, we are heading to the space age at a faster rate. All right, when computer chips are getting smaller and manufactured at a faster rate as well. No one expects that you can call someone and see them from a far place just on a box or a phone. I mean, the Jetsons, if you watched Jetsons last time, so you know how old I am already, the cartoon. So those things are now materialized today. All right, so whether you like it or not, in the far future, you're going to have this, unless human become stupid and blow each other up lah. All right, that one cannot help really. All right, but otherwise, there's always demand there. But no, we can always talk about these good things like, hey, there's always a high demand for data science. There's always a vacancy for engineers and so on. We speak about the good of it, but in the end, students don't want to enroll for those things because in their head, it's already been implanted either by their parents or from what they have experienced, that this is a difficult subject. This is a difficult course. It's not for me. And the reason why it's not for me, because probably they've not tried it in the first place. All right. If you try it, you don't like, still okay. But from what I see, they haven't tried. They really don't want to take it up as a, how you said, something to try. And then they follow their peers, their friends, or what they look up to. All right. So in the projection, I feel based on the number of colleges and universities that are, coming up, most of them are offering a lot of hospitality, business courses, and IT as well, because these are, from what I've experienced, these are the three things that usually the industry needs. And I also know, because I applied as a lecturer, and these are the things they want. Regarding engineering and all, first of all, the cost for in order to develop this program is not cheap either. And not every institute could just come up with an engineering or an IT course. It has to be audited and make sure it fulfills the guidelines under the Malaysian Quality Assessment. And as for number of students intake concern, for the past few years, I feel there is a decline in the intake for these courses, especially in the technical areas. Majority of them love to go for simple courses like early childhood, business, psychology, sales, and all this stuff. All right. Well, but I still feel there's hope in the future that there's a growth, but it won't be right away after night. It's probably going to take few years because first of all, the people need to realize the importance of science and technology, and not just science and technology. Like, it should be science, arts, and technology, and other thing, blah blah blah. All right. Otherwise, if you just limit to just science and technology, people are just going to feel like this is just for the sciencey students, right? It's not open up for arts and all. So if you can make sure that all of this is like instant coffee, Nescafe 3-in-1, right? So got sugar, got milk, got whatever nonsense, right? So you will have a bigger market and people could try. But if you just say this is copy O, then you're only going to get copy O people to come and try your product, right? So if you say science, technology, engineering, mathematics, arts, psychology, instead of STEM becomes STEM up. I don't know. So it's something bigger. Then people will come and try to experience different courses, and that would actually contribute to the growth of them enrolling for the courses, not just because it's in demand, because it's good, because it's important, or they need to know that we need to make people realize without actually trying to hard sell the benefit that outweigh the disadvantage of other things, right? Otherwise, people will feel forced to go for other courses because this is not for them. So in the long run, I feel there will be growth because in order to improve as a civilization, you want to have good things, you want to have a good facilities. You need people to develop all those. Where the people come from the education where they are right now, universities, college, training centers, and so on. And don't just put all these courses in these technical courses in universities. Make it available in other professional sets. Like some people may not have the time or don't have the opportunity to enroll for these courses at university levels. They can actually take this as a part-time professional courses, which is very popular in other countries, right? And industry also is not, there are industry players not just looking on your certificate, whether you learn this, like you have a computer degree. But if you have a professional training degree in Excel or Microsoft or AWS, for example, and you have your degrees in accountancy, they will take you as well because you can do the job, right? So it doesn't mean it has to be one path. So the direction is to be open wider so that people, first of all, recognize the amount of talent this could actually give, and then they could themselves give it a try, and then they could enroll for it, not in just the tertiary level, but in other platforms.
I see. I mean, that's really interesting because nowadays, I can see youngsters, children right now are really into aerospace. It's quite interesting, to be honest, for me. Do you have any tips or any say that how can people prepare to be in aerospace, or maybe the youngsters or the children can bring their parents to Mars?
Oh, don't bring your parents to Mars unless you hate them. Right? Okay, first of all, don't think of it. Don't think too much. Like, don't overthink. Just bring them. Just say like, have a good time. Aerospace. Okay, forget the formula for once, right? Look at the stars. Look at what that's all around you. Look at all this that you've seen as a miracle. How does airplane fly? It's magic, right? First you thought it's magic, but actually there's engine turbines and so on. There's pistons that make it fly. But forget about it. Be a kid, right? In order to make someone accept something, you got to be a kid, be a child, be playful. All right. So don't just like be an adult for once. For once, be a child. Even though you are an adult, if you are a child, you let your imagination run wild, then there's nothing stopping you from actually experiencing the fun part of aerospace, right? And aerospace doesn't mean you got to go to the moon. What's there in the moon? Nothing. There's no shopping, no one utama there. What do do at the moon? Oxygen pun tara, right? So nothing there. So, but the reason why I go to the moon because it looks cool. It's actually astronauts. Okay, this is the first thing everyone would want to be when they grow up, right? I'm sure everyone, when you're a small teacher, asks you, apa you nak jadi? What you want to be? You will say like, I want to be astronaut, scientist, or pilot. This is the common three that I think I chose. But in the end, I'm in the education line and doing some research. So in a way, I'm sort of like a scientist, but I'm trying to improve. But like I said, your ambition will change accordingly. Today you want some. Today you feel like eating chocolate. Tomorrow you feel like eating strawberry, and so on. Because you're just human. You're gonna change. So as your passion. All right. So if you like something, it's okay to like something. All right. But if you continue to like something, that means that's something for you. So aerospace. Like the word itself, the space in aerospace. So it's people like to say the sky is the limit. I said, hello, bro, you don't know aerospace. So it's wide, it's vast. Go and how you say, go and explore more. It's nice when you explore it with more than one person. I tried exploring it alone. It was a bit difficult, but it's like going for a run, right? For a run, it's lonely, but if you run with a partner or a group, it feels nice. So same thing with aerospace. Make it interesting. If you don't find it interesting, get someone to join you on that journey to check out what aerospace is. And in Malaysia, we have a lot of opportunity. If you don't know one of it, it's like we how is it we help Rolls-Royce engine to develop part of their turbine, right, by UMW,
wow.
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So and then the flaps of AirAsia, the plane that you see at night, the bling bling, the light, those are manufactured here. A lot of things that are how is it locally made, sendirian berhad, no, people don't know. So probably we could highlight the certain things are not just made in France or Germany, made here. They're using us, okay, not we're using them or something. We're using them, not they're using us or something like that lah. So this is one way to be proud. Like, hey, those things. The rocket and all. We're even going to have a space launch, right? A space launch site soon, right? They've already announced because we're situated very near the equator. It's good for how you said launching satellites and other stuff. So, yeah, that's immense, and you don't need to look at those. Look at the cars. Look at automobiles. Look at your phone. Those are also aerospace products. Your phone today could launch the Apollo mission back then in 1970. How great is that, right? So something we fail to see. So we need to be a child. Have fun,
Right. Right. And well, actually, just as an aeroplane flies, time flies as well. So we are
Whoa.
actually reaching the end of the episode. But before we go, we have one last question for you, Aaron.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for aspiring educators who want to infuse comedy into their teaching? So people who want to make their teaching more entertaining as yours, what tips do you have for them?
Just be yourself, all right. Don't try to dress up as a clown, but if you want, go ahead, all right. So I once appeared in a dinosaur suit
Yeah.
because it was introduction to Python programming and Python
I see.
snakes or reptiles. So I become I dress up as a dinosaur suit. It looks more like the dinosaur ate a Chinaman. So be yourself. You can teach in your own way. You do not need to force yourself to be funny. It will come naturally. Do it at your own pace. Like at the moment, if you realize that your teaching is not that good, or you're not going to teaching but you don't know how, try to teach yourself first. That's the first thing. Look in the mirror and try to see how you can improve. If you want to teach someone, you start with don't people say start with your family, but don't teach your family. Later your parents say like, why are you teaching me? I'm your parent. So you can teach, I don't know, start with your friends or whoever. Don't teach. Teaching comes voluntarily. It shouldn't be like you sit down and listen to me and this is the formula that will work. No, that's not teaching. That's giving an order, right? It's not teaching. It's something where you share and you share from your experience, because to teach someone and for them to understand what the heck you are talking about, and if they understand, it's because they could relate. And how they could relate to you is because something you share is genuine. You've experienced it before. You know it well better than others, so that you impart knowledge to them. All right. But if you are sharing something you're not familiar with and it's not attractive, it's not packaged properly, you don't even know what the heck you are talking, how are you going to get others to know you? It's like if you can't accept yourself for who you're going to accept yourself for who you are first. Are you a loud person? Are you a soft-spoken person? But doesn't matter. Voice range doesn't matter. All right. As long as you know to deliver it properly. So if you can't even accept yourself for who you are, how are you going to expect others to accept you for who you are, right? So you got to repair yourself first before you can start going out there and telling other people how to repair their way of life or to share something. Okay, so because a broken
Right.
person cannot fix broken things. Because if you want to learn, like if you want to become a security, security diver at a a
Mhm.
beach, you need to know how to swim first, right? Otherwise, someone's drowning, you go and drown with them, is it? So no, right? You gotta fix yourself first, learn the necessary skills, and then go and guide others. Otherwise, you too will be lost. All right. So get to know yourself, and then if you think teaching is for you, give it a try. Don't give up, even if you have doubt. But can you talk or not first? Can talk, right? If you talk already, people actually remember what you talk or not. Maybe your joke, maybe certain statement. In a way, you're teaching indirectly. All right. So then probably who knows? You might be a good teacher, right?
Mm.
Good teachers don't come from those. No one is good at teaching right from the start. One, no one. But it comes from life experience, right? From life experience, even from me, I learned from my seniors, I learned from my colleagues. I entered the class, I see how they teach. A lot of people have good knowledge, but it's the delivery part. So I tell them probably you can deliver it in another way, right? So in order to be a better person, comedian, businessman, salesman, mom, father, student, you got to accept feedback from a lot of people. Feedback is very important. Listen to your audience. Listen to your students if you're in the academic line. If out of 10 people, 11 complain about you, got problem there. I don't know where 11 come from, but you got to probably fix yourself lah. But out of 10 people, probably one don't like you. You don't have a problem. Probably the student is in the wrong class lah. Need to go moral class or something. So,
I couldn't agree
that's
more.
yeah.
Well,
Yep.
we learned a lot about you today, Aaron, being a funny guy, but at the same time teaching a serious course. That's a different level. Looking at all the students, your passion for aerospace and teaching, I really need to silently come to your class one day. I hope Aaron can inspire people out there by listening to this podcast, especially the Gen Zs nowadays out there. And just Gen Z should join STEM if you are into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. If you're not into STEM, it's okay. Like our parents say, or Aaron always say, just try first.
Yeah, not just for Gen Z, Gen A, B, C, until baby boomers pun boleh, can lah, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and share this episode. Subscribe to the Peace Engineering YouTube channel to see more exciting podcast episode from us.